Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, the Blue Anon online leftist crew the other day was so pissed. I mean, they were so angry when Donald Trump said this.
Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
There's no evidence to back up that claim. Donald Trump is lying. He's lying. He never even requested the troops. Why would the President of the United States even need to go through the Speaker of the House to begin with? He's the top-level executive. Well, I mean, theoretically, yeah, but when it comes to the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi is in charge of security at the House. Nancy Pelosi. And so many media fact-checkers have claimed that no, that is not the case, that's a lie, it's yet again another conspiracy theory. But again, if we go right back to that Trump interview from the other day, when he said this...
If she didn't do that,
but
and now
Nancy
I understand,
Pelosi doesn't have the authority
that the
you
police
have as
testified
Commander-in-Chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen, listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police.
Again, he's right. Guess what? The former Capitol Police Chief, Steven Sund, just testified in front of the Oversight Committee, where he essentially confirmed yet again that everything that we've been saying, everything Donald Trump has been saying, is in fact correct. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. Nancy Pelosi, yet again, directly involved, the finger pointing directly at her. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at the headline. It pretty much says it all. Nancy Pelosi lied. Former Capitol Police Chief Sund testifies that he had 3 calls with Pelosi on January 6. Pelosi said that they never spoke, but Sund says that he has the receipts.
I want to dive into the questions, Chief Sund. In your transcribed interview, you mentioned that you met with the House Sergeant at Arms regarding the National Guard prior to January 6th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And who was the House Sergeant at Arms leading up to and on January 6th?
That would be Paul Irving.
And the House Sergeant at Arms is appointed by who?
It was appointed at that time by Speaker Pelosi.
And in your transcribed interview, you mentioned that when you first brought up the National Guard to the House Sergeant at Arms in the days leading up to January 6th, that Mr. Irving said he, quote, didn't like the optics, end quote. Is that correct?
That is correct. He referenced being concerned for optics.
And on January 6th, when you went to Mr. Irving to get his approval to call in the Guard, Mr. Irving said he would, quote, run it up the chain. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That was a telephone call. I didn't see him in person when I first made that request.
The House Sergeant at Arms is considered probably the most senior security official on the House side. When Mr. Irving says he has to, quote, run it up the chain, end quote, what did that mean?
I took that to mean his leadership chain.
And who would be his leadership chain? He's functionally the most senior security official on the House side, correct?
That's his title. That's part of the title, the senior law enforcement official for the House of Representatives. But he would have been referring to the leadership team that goes up to Speaker Pelosi.
So the political leadership team, meaning elected officials, not another security official, is that your understanding?
That is correct, sir. He's the top security official for the House.
So running up the chain would most likely, in your opinion, is through the Speaker's office and possibly to Speaker Pelosi?
That would be where it ends, yes.
Okay, so let's park that there, and then let's jump to a second set here. In a press conference on January 7th, Speaker Pelosi called for your resignation on national television. Speaker Pelosi also stated that she had not talked to you since the initial breach of the Capitol. But according to your transcribed interview, you were on the phone with Speaker Pelosi a few times. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, that is correct. I spoke to Speaker Pelosi 3 times that evening, and she went on national TV and said I'd never spoken to her, but I spoke to her 3 times. The three times were the first time when I went over to brief Vice President Pence at the secure location. I had called House Sergeant at Arms Irving, told him I was going over to brief the Vice President. I was also going over to do a personal assessment of the Capitol. At that point, things were getting under control. Went over there, briefed him on when we can get them back into chambers with Mr. Irving being fully aware. He said he wanted to get Speaker Pelosi on the phone. He made a phone call from his cell phone at approximately 5:34, where I first briefed Speaker Pelosi. The second call was when I left that location. As I was walking away, I met up with Mr. Stenger, and we started walking over to the Senate to go brief the Senate. When Jennifer Hemingway, I believe it was Jennifer Hemingway, handed me the cell phone, and it was Emily Barrett's cell phone calling her, and it was Speaker Pelosi on the other line. This is my second call with Speaker Pelosi, questioning the information I'd given to Vice President Pence about when we can get back into chambers. I assured her that information was correct. I could get them back into chambers by 7 p.m., and the call ended. That was call number 2. Call number 3 was 6:25 p.m. I was over at the Senate from the secure location, from where the Senate had been sequestered. And on a cell phone, using Robert Karam's cell phone, they dialed leadership, who was over off-site at a secure location, and I briefed all of leadership of the plans to get them back into chambers. That would have been call number 3 with Speaker Pelosi.
So you didn't have one call, you didn't have 2 calls, you had 3 calls. So Speaker Pelosi's comments that she didn't speak to you are inaccurate.
That is correct, sir.
So he sent the report to the House Sergeant at Arms, who was supposedly going to run it up the chain, which means then go speak to Nancy Pelosi. We don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but one thing we know for a fact is that the request for increased security clearly wasn't taken so seriously. They had it on their desk and they did nothing. And after everything went to crap, what did Nancy Pelosi do? She took the stage and demanded for Steven Sund to resign. To resign from his post for what exactly? For doing his job? For warning the House Sergeant at Arms, who reports directly to Nancy Pelosi, that exactly what happened was going to happen and that you should be prepared? Nancy, of course, also lied and claimed that she never spoke to Steven Sund, but he confirms now, and he claims that he has the receipts, he has the evidence, that he spoke to her 3 times during the day. You know, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. It paints pretty much the exact picture that we've been painting. And you have all of these narcissistic, know-it-all leftists on Twitter and other platforms claiming it's all a bunch of lies, conspiracy theorists, that we're simply promoting a cultist talking point. We'll literally say anything to defend Donald Trump, but I don't know, it seems pretty evident to me that obviously there was some sort of plan or some sort of interest from particular characters to ensure that chaos ensued on that day. There was obviously a goal, and that goal was chaos. You know, Democrats standing on the back of the January 6th committee love to paint this picture as if J6 is real simple, you know? Donald Trump, the evil, maniacal, narcissistic psychopath authoritarian president, called for an insurrection, and his cult followers didn't even question. They falled in line and did his bidding. Oh, the horror. Except it's obviously a whole lot more complicated than that, and I mean that. Obviously, the feds were involved. They removed barricades, they opened magnetically locked doors, they rejected requests for extra security, they did it on purpose to suppress intelligence that would have been highly useful in the hands of law enforcement, and I don't know, maybe Nancy Pelosi and her Sergeant at Arms, who are head of Capitol Security. But of course, all warnings were ignored, and if anything, what probably happened was that agent provocateurs were then put into the crowd to take advantage of a very basic psychological phenomenon known as mob mentality to cause a massive ruckus, and then of course to use it as a political weapon for years to follow. Obviously, that's what happened. The chain of command was as follows. You have the Chief of Capitol Police, who sent his request to the House Sergeant at Arms, whose direct higher up is Nancy Pelosi, and right in that little region, there was a breakdown in communication. The question is, how could that possibly be Donald Trump's fault? A request was made directly to Nancy Pelosi and her Sergeant at Arms, and it ended there. The request was ignored. There was no security, just stupid little metal barriers that Capitol Police moved out of the way to let protesters in. There was obviously no grand conspiracy on the side of Trump. It was simply a protest, but the more and more time goes by, the more obvious it becomes, the more obvious it is that clearly there was a conspiracy on the other side. They had a plan, they knew exactly what they were doing, and everything went to plan. And the question is, well, it's always the same question, are people paying attention? Lord, I hope they are, because if you're simply presented the set of facts, well then the picture is clear, and once you see it, there's no way to unsee it. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.